Hello and welcome to my video. Gaming in general went from going to shop, buy a game and play it, to microtransactions and incomplete disasters. You can trust a guy with a mask that want to use your phone for a little call more than a brand new game disc that you just got. Business is revolved around money. People do the things that make them money. If you didn't know that, you can actually make money without being a scumbag. But I don't know if Ubisoft understand it. Guess where I'm heading now. I literally had enough of Ubisoft's bullshit for ruining my favorite series like Assassin's Creed. In the past, they made the Assassin's Creed a Witcher knockoff, and no, they don't want you to even try the real Assassin's Creed games. Yes, I'm talking about removing the Assassin's Creed Liberation from the stores. I said screw them. I can't hold my anger anymore. I want to talk about it. I start with a more acceptable or less shitty stuff and go down the rabbit hole. Impossible unlockables. With the rise of the internet and online games, gaming studios didn't stay behind and tried to fill their pockets as much as they could, and the term microtransactions became mainstream. I love microtransactions. In fact, I love to support the developers of a game that I love, but I wish it actually supports them and not be used for getting alcohol and raping employees. I will talk about that later in the video. No company sees their fans as customers like Ubisoft. I think if you say the word fan near Ubisoft CEO, they'd probably think of a pulling fan. At first, Ubisoft used the platform to expand the game with DLCs and online multiplayer, or even cosmetics. But it didn't last long until Ubisoft started abusing it. They relied heavily on it. One of the examples is For Honor. For Honor in the papers seems like a great game. It was a great game if you didn't need to pay 2 or 3 months of your full salary for completing the game. After the game was released, a Reddit user calculated that if you want to complete the game or unlock everything, you either need to grind the game for around 2.5 years or pay 1 million steel, which is an in-game currency. It's around $800 in real life. Game director responded to the outrageous cost of completing the unlocks, stating that it was never the intention for players to unlock everything. However, many in the community were still upset. If it was just that, I could kinda accept it. But let's dive deeper. Racism. I know, if racism is in the second, so what will come next? Ubisoft is one of the companies that included so many cultures in its games. The Assassin's Creed series is a good example. We can explore the culture and history of so many countries that we didn't know before. I don't care if they have a corporative mindset to milk everyone or if they do it out of respect. But sometimes they miss the mark. One of the controversies about this subject is around a mobile game created by Ubisoft called Tom Clancy Elite Squad. The backlash began after promotional material for Tom Clancy's Elite Squad appeared online. The game, a free-to-play online military RPG for mobile devices, pitted players against Umbrella, a terrorist organization. The game's trailer used the raised fist symbol synonymous with the Black Lives Matter movement as the fictional Umbrella's emblem. The community's reaction was swift, and Ubisoft apologized on Twitter, admitting that the symbol's inclusion was insensitive and harmful. Ubisoft removed the content from all versions of the game 2 days later. But this wasn't the first time that Ubisoft faced accusation of racial insensitivity. However, when the company first released promotional art for Far Cry 4, the art depicted a light-skinned, blonde-haired man on a throne with his hand on a kneeling character with an Asian appearance. While the developers released more information about the ethnicity of the featured individual and their relationships, it still shocked consumers. Disaster game releases. Ubisoft had some great games in its timeline. Splinter Cell, Assassin's Creed, Tom Clancy, etc. were great in so many ways. Graphics, music, writing, and if they weren't as good as other ones, they at least ran properly. This is a 2+2 is 4 situation. Why should someone pay money for an entertainment that doesn't do the bare bone of what it's supposed to do? It's like buying a bike at full price with no wheels and pedals, and the shopkeeper tells you to come back for the wheels 2 years later. Yes, you guessed it right. I'm talking about the Assassin's Creed Unity. Assassin's Creed Unity actually became one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games after it got patched, but why they didn't release it when it was ready? How can investors be thirsty with money like that and be the dumbest person alive at the same time? Bugs and glitches plagued the game at its release, including an unsettling missing face error and rampant collision detection problems. Ubisoft also shipped it without promised female character available for co-op, with the creative director Alex Amancio stating that including them was simply too much work. I guess it's hard to simulate Teeth's physique. I know they don't deserve it, but the community might have forgiven all of this if it hadn't been apparent that Ubisoft was well aware of the game's shortcomings. They literally didn't let the reviewers release the truth for 12 hours after they start selling the game. I'm disgusted just talking about that. If you liked the video until here, I will be happy if you consider liking the video and subscribing. It will support me a lot. Yearly release of the game. In the PS2 era and even Xbox 360, downloading and updating games from the internet wasn't a thing yet. So games like sport games should release a game every year to be updated, like seasonal changes and player transfers. This doesn't work for so many games. For updating a game like FIFA, you just need to make some new textures and animations and call it a game. But something like Assassin's Creed, I don't think so. The end result will either be a dogshit product or so many underpaid, overworked employees. In 2010s, Ubisoft embraced a more aggressive release schedule for its biggest franchises. Blockbuster franchises like Call of Duty have multiple iterations that allow for game release schedule to occur every year. However, Ubisoft cranked out one Assassin's Creed title after the other every year from 2009 until 2016. The publisher pursued an equally aggressive schedule for games with their Tom Clancy license such as Ghost Recon and Rainbow Six, as well as Far Cry games. While the schedule put a lot of content on fans' hands, it can dilute the franchise. In fact, after Ubisoft took a year off from Assassin's Creed franchise for the first time after 7 years, the next title was praised as one of the series' best. I don't know that it was one of the series' best, but at least it was playable. Misleading trailers. Ubisoft, as shitty as they are, you can't deny that their trailers are fire. The only reason I played Assassin's Creed 3 was for trailer, and I don't regret it. But it draws a line when you try to scam your fans with trailers. High-profile games such as Rainbow Six Siege and Tom Clancy's Division received trailers that seemed to represent the gameplay, but did not. The biggest controversy, however, came from the release of the Watch Dogs. I'll let the screen show you what I mean. Ubisoft admitted that the trailer, rendered on a high-end PC, showed graphics far behind what customers would find on consoles or even most PCs. Poopy servers. As an Apex Legends player, I thought EA has the worst servers of all time. But surprisingly, Ubisoft proved me wrong. They don't even have a server. The Rainbow Six Siege release was bad. Yeah, no surprise, it's Ubisoft and blah blah blah. But over time it grew an audience, like 55 million in 2019. Thankfully, Ubisoft turned on its brain and tried to support it further. But unfortunately, Ubisoft's brain can't handle thoughts to some extent. They made cosmetics and microtransactions as much as they could, but they didn't know in case they want to sell the things, they need servers to run the game at the first place. Most of the mods in Rainbow Six Siege use peer-to-peer servers. That means Ubisoft won't host the game, and that's actually on the player's shoulder. These type of servers are actually unsecure, and they are a threat to the host's privacy. To respond to these issues, Ubisoft launched Operation Health to improve server performance. Players of the game since its launch were confused as to why this hadn't been a priority since the beginning. Invasive piracy protection. All of us experience piracy at least once in our lives. No, I don't mean that kind of piracy. I mean the more nerdy way. Something as bad as a full video game or as innocent as WinRAR license. Because of that, it's fair to say that companies put their products behind the protection wall to prevent this. Everyone introduced their way of doing that. But as always, Ubisoft missed the mark and forgot that people who buy them should be an exception in the system and they should actually be able to play the game. In 2010, Ubisoft began using DRM, which required an active internet connection to play their games, regardless of the presence of online components. The always-on piracy protection also meant that if the internet connection dropped, the game would freeze and progress would not be saved. This was the case until Ubisoft abandoned always-on DRM in 2012. As always, they tried to fix the game after they shit on their fans. But they didn't learn from their mistakes and released another shady protection method. But this time, the internet wasn't the reason that prevented players from playing, and it was actually the bad coding of the DRM that was lagging the game. Quote-unquote Ubisoft formula. I bet you heard the word Ubisoft formula. It is nothing significant. It does not mean that Ubisoft Gangnam styled Einstein and reinvented the theory of relativity. It all started when they made Far Cry 3. Such a great and especially successful game. The game had a unique way of handling main missions and other objectives. And when they saw it is filling their pockets, they turned off their monkey brain and tried to implement the same formula to every other franchises they had. I'm surprised they didn't implement it in the Trials series. You just go to the colored dot, kill NPCs, win. This shit will continue for at least 80 hours for each game. Harassment and sexual misconduct in the workplace. For what I said about Ubisoft earlier, if you say yeah, it's normal. This is how every corporation manages their stuff. That's right, what if it actually ends there? I wanted to finish this video on positive term, but this is Ubisoft we're talking about. The worst thing that they have done that I think Blizzard can truly relate to is, actually I'm so disgusted to say it. At first, I was just mad at Ubisoft, but this is drawing the line that pisses me off. How those people can make a video game when they don't even have a minimum requirement to work, which is safety. Who wants to be sexually harassed when you want to just get some bread for your family? While Ubisoft has not made any public allegation against current former staff members, some of the most powerful senior leaders departed the company. God, even Satan has a better workplace for their demons in hell. These incidents promoted Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot to make public an open letter to Ubisoft staff pledging to improve human resources, processes and revise the editorial department. Guillemot also promised in the letter to review company policies and strengthen diversity company-wide. I hope that's not just some marketing strategy and they actually change some stuff. Last part. All of us at least have one great memory of playing a Ubisoft game. Seeing this company fall to the ground broke my heart. Greed and power never made someone successful. I hope Ubisoft and other game companies realize that. And fuck those scumbags that made the shitty over jobs shittier for people. Thank you for watching.